Hello, boys and girls. Welcome. I guess this will be my second take since this is not a live thing today. The first episode will not be live. Maybe future ones will be live. Maybe I'll get my friend Laura from the Overtime podcast that we used to do to come on the show one of these days. But I wanted to make this video, and she is busy working right now, so I cannot invite her on the show. But as I was saying, this is the opening show, and we're going to tackle one thing that's going to piss a lot of people off: the American education system. I am against the teachers, I'm against the administration, and I'm against pretty much everyone involved. Why? Because I can count on one hand the amount of teachers that actually gave a fuck when I was in school, and my little sister's having lovely problems as she reaches senior and has health issues. Yeah. Also, system is great. Part of it is legislation. I don't have a teacher here to really tell me about some of the politics inside schools. But yeah, it's stuff like Red for Ed, which was them sacrifice the education of children and try to get paid better wages. By the way, teachers, you should not be protesting against government people. You should protest against your school boards, because I've done the math, and I'm about to show you guys that there is plenty of money in this education system, and then I'm going to go after what the teachers do not do and what they do. And I'm also going to probably touch on school shootings and what we can do to alleviate those. I am not pro-gun control. I am pro everyone being armed, mostly because our government's a bunch of shitheads, but we'll go through that in a later episode. But essentially, we need a solution that works now, that protects us from the people that break the rules, and we will go into that later in this episode. So, first we're going to run down the numbers. We have 77 million students in the United States. At a low end, they're getting $12,000 per student. $25,000 per student in New York State. Funding per special ed student, add that about another $1,000 to that. You got 6.7 of those. 6.7 million of those, I should say. Sorry about that. So add another $1,000, 6.7 million, 6.7 billion, because 1,000 times a million is a billion. Like, you do that in your head. So I ran that through my calculator. So if you go baseline plus special ed funding, you're looking at a low end of about $930.7 billion going to the school system in this country. Mind you, our defense budget is $800 billion. The schools have $130 billion more than the freaking military, but we're not going to actually talk about that, are we? We're just going to say they're underfunded, because we can give them enough money for military to fight costly war and fire missiles that cost $100 million a shot, but we can't pay our teachers well with the same funding. Teachers, this is where we smell embezzlement in the administration, and we start to go yell at them. Yes, teachers, go yell at the bosses, the school boards, go to school board meetings, and stand up to them. Demand that they quit misappropriating funds. Red for Ed didn't do nothing here in Indiana. All it did was take the kids out of school for a few days and hurt their education. You have the funding. Your system has the funding. Your administration is trying to pin it on somebody else so you don't investigate too thoroughly. This is why I think we need to audit the school system. Because here's the numbers going after that one. The average school size is about 514 students. That's one elementary school, by the way, probably. You're looking at about 20 students a classroom, and we're looking at one staff member to 11 students in the country. Some school systems are more understaffed than others, but you're looking at one staff member per 11 kids. So if we gave every staff member a minimum of $60,000 a year, that would leave $72,000 per 11 students to pay for lights, meals, and busing for the year. Now, mind you, buses are shared by a district. elementary school and high school, a lot of the times, will start at different times of day, so the same bus can be used for more students. So this cost is shared between schools for the students. Remember, shared cost means less cost. This will be a rule we'll come back to later when we talk about American manufacturing and why labor is not the issue. But that is for a future episode. Today, we're fixing the education system. I think an audit's in order. Because, with all of that being said, minimum funding is $6.168 million per school. $6.168 million to fund a school for you. Now, granted, you do have things like Kaplan, who have a complete monopoly on textbooks, and schools are not buying books. Here's what I really don't understand. They don't have new books, but they have iPads, which are about $500 a piece. So you still got $11,500 per student per year, even after you buy them their low-end school grade iPad, which they have to return. So and the next year uses it again. So it's really a one-time cost and replace them when they break. But after initial cost, you don't spend that again because it's not like you're giving them away for free to the students. You could with all this money being thrown around, but they don't. And they always buy the cheapest versions that are falling apart. We had netbooks when I was in high school, and that thing's case fell apart the day I brought it home. By the way, these little netbooks and Chromebooks, they fall apart, and you got to take them with you home and to school, and they're going to get roughed up in your backpack on a case, or whatever you do with them, they're going to get roughed up. So a lot of people figured out that these things barely ran Windows and Word for us. But trying to stay back on track, this is why I need a freaking... Oh, wait, no, my co-host on Overtime helps to get more off topic. So there's what that part is. Like I said, the first part of the episode, we were looking at the budget. I haven't gotten into the budget. I don't know if I even have the ability to get into the budget. I'm just some guy who's doing this in my extremely scarce spare time. I have health problems. I'm autistic. I need to work there. I can barely pay my bills right now. So, I have my own issues, so I don't exactly have time to be doing shit ton of research. And I'm kind of wanting to get this out while I'm inspired so I don't forget to get it out. But back on topic of the school system. So, by running these numbers, we can already see that the school administration is misappropriating funds. I saw this where I grew up. I grew up in northern Michigan. They would literally move students to another school for the year, rebuild the school. 3 years later, the school gets shut down and torn down. They spent millions of dollars rebuilding a school. And because it's a government contract, it went over budget, because the government does not force contractors to stay within budget or eat the extra cost. The government always says, it goes over budget, we'll cover it. That's another problem. That'll be my episode about the debt crisis and how we got here. Just some common sense stuff. Like I said, I'm not doing these big expert things because obviously the experts don't know what the fuck they're talking about, because if they did, solutions would have been made a long time ago and we wouldn't be in this mess, and 2008 would have never happened. So obviously the experts don't have a freaking clue. They haven't been right a day in my life. They aren't going to start being right now. Or at least it would be surprising if they did. So, like I said, that's my bitching against the administration. In order to fix the school funding problem, we need to really pressure the administration to open the books. We need stuff like the Parents' Rights Bill in Congress that will never pass because the Democrats won't let it through. They give parents right to see the curriculum, see the budget, where the money's going, all that stuff. I know why schools are against it. The administration doesn't want their embezzlement to be found out. They don't want to be going to jail. They don't want to lose the money they're giving to their friends. They don't want to be forced to actually stop misappropriating funds. All this stuff. Because with all this money, there is no excuse for any of us buildings to not be state of the art, and any of our teachers to be having to spend money on classroom supplies or be on poverty wages. Even the assistants should be able to make a livable wage. Um, so, and you may say, oh, well, that's 60K per person. The higher up you go in administration, the less people there are, like in any business. So the extra money coming out of that can be per 11 students, because you could take, let's say the principal, you want to pay the principal more than 60K a year. Well, you don't have to take it all out of his group of 11 students. You can take it out of every group of 11 students, and you still have a lot of money per student, because that's how it works. Cost is, like I said, cost goes over the entire area, the higher up go in the organization. But once again, that's business. That's another episode. So we've looked at the budget. That there's no excuse, well, at least with the funding. And these are just, this is how ridiculous this is. I didn't even have to dig for any of this stuff. I looked up this page and found these facts in about 20 minutes. Or less. I literally spent more time working on the thumbnail for this episode than I did to find this information. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? Now, teachers, let me make this clear to begin with. I am not talking about you teachers who cared. My science teacher in 10th grade cared. He even did this whole thing where he had us, before doing the evolution thing, he wanted to ask us what we all thought, how we all thought the world came to be. He turned us on to the Darwin Awards. My 9th grade English teacher saw my creative writing, told me I should be a writer. My 9th grade math teacher, she was awesome. She explained things well and was patient with me. My first 9th grade history teacher, before we found out I was autistic, definitely had a love for history. She was an older gal, loved history. My special ed 9th grade teacher, she was very helpful. 10th grade, not so much. The only good teachers I had was my art teacher and my science teacher in 10th grade. Most of my teachers were good in my last year of high school at charter school I went to and did care. So there are teachers that care. Okay. I'm not talking to you. Unfortunately, teachers that care, you are in the minority. Because most teachers I have seen turn a blind eye to bullying, blame the victim, and don't want to be any more than glorified babysitter. My dad was literally told in 6th grade by my teacher that if I had not said that I did not like to be called Anthony, please call me Tony, I wouldn't have been picked on. Just because I was saying what name I would prefer. That school, I was terrorized by my entire class, chokeholds daily, and I was ganged up on the school ground, and I had a big boulder of ice rolled over me. I've had ice chunks thrown at my head. I've had kids slam doors in my face, go tell the teacher I did it, and I'm the one who got in trouble because they got to the teacher first. And these are many situations why I agree that there should be cameras and body cameras and classroom cameras all over every school, and parents should have access to them, and they should be recorded for an amount of time, for at least several years, be required to be, and the parent can go through, and anything that has to do with their kid, they can view it, and it must be viewable. And we also need to fix, because there are anti-bullying laws that call bullying assault, but because of privacy laws, we need to make an exception that allows the parents to get the kids' information, because the school can't release that information, and that's why we can never go after my bully. The only reason we can go after this one gal who my sister filed restraining order against, because she actually made a death threat against her online, but because it was not worded explicitly as a death threat, the school couldn't do anything or wouldn't do anything. The only reason she got the restraining order, now she's an ex-friend of my sister's, and we knew where she lived. And now later this week, I go to court to keep the restraining order going. Well, next week. But this is the state of the school system. Is teachers don't care. And a lot of times they care more about pushing political bias than they do about educating the kids. And what do I mean by this? Well, I'll give you a couple examples. One, because of my autism and because some things in the administration screwed up with my last year with the charter school I went to, um, I'd been so failed by my public school system that I couldn't graduate from regular school, but we found I could go to this charter school and still get my diploma. And then the school shut down the year after the year I graduated was last year in service because the administration was idiotically stupid. The higher up administration. I told them exactly how to keep the school going. They agreed with me and then promptly ignored me because I was a student. What do I know? So essentially, so yeah, that happened. And sorry, my friend just messaged me on Facebook about the thumbnail, and I got a little distracted. Where was I? School system failed me. Oh, I was talking about political bias. So essentially, we had a special ed assistant person who would always turn on NPR. And if I had the wrong political view and I turned on my mouth, instead of telling, which by the way, NPR is not the radio station that should be put on in school, nor should our politics be in school. Um, I am going to say this right now. Pride flags, politics, any of that stuff does not belong in school. And if the kid says something about the political beliefs, the only thing the teacher should be able to do to shut that down is to tell the kid, we're in school to learn, not do politics. Let's focus on the studying, because that is what they are there to do. And this teacher, I would remark against NPR on a more conservative view, and she would berate me almost about how wrong I was about the subject. I talked to another teacher. I told him how I thought the world should be fixed. He told me that I was a communist. It turns out the way I thought was mildly communistic, but I was just being logical. I was not really under anybody's influence. It was something I came up with on my own. But we'll talk about isms and different things. By the way, I'm not a communist. I'm not conservative either. I'm a middle of the road guy. But we're gonna go from there. Keep going here. But my sister, her name is Grace. Her middle name is Maxine. I'm not gonna say our last names, obviously. But in her school, there's a lot of Graces, so she goes by Max. At school because too many Graces. You know, some people use the middle name to keep themselves different from the other people, so their friends call her Max. Her teacher decided to ask her what bathroom she wanted to use. My sister then went through an unnecessary confused phase where she thought she might be trans. By the way, she's not. But had we be one of these affirmative families that didn't question everything and make sure that you're sure, she might have started a process to transition without really being trans. She's a girl. She will tell you today she is a girl. Straight to your face. But she was really confused, really upset, and emotionally wrecked by the entire situation. She had to go through a journey of self-discovery that wasn't even necessary because she never even thought about that. These sorts of teachers are why the students are so messed up. There's teachers that care, but then other teachers who don't and push politics before pushing education and lessons. They barely help the students answer any questions to the students. I barely got any help from a lot of my teachers through a lot of school when I was in high school. Charter school, the teachers did help a lot, and it was more buddy-buddy than teacher-student. But the point still remains that a lot of teachers are pushing politics and not really helping the students. They just get tired of them and everything else. And a lot of teachers, they'd say, you're boring. You know, you need to find a way to make your lessons nicer. You're teaching for the test and trying to run the school like a freaking prison. The kids aren't interested. and especially in low-income areas. The kids are not interested, and the families are telling them there's no point to it. You're never going to go to college, and when they try to go to college, crab bucket syndrome will just drag them back in. You've got to show them that there is a better way. You got to take an interest in these kids' lives. You got to volunteer to come in on weekends and say, bring the parents. Like they said in that movie, Lean on Me, he said, bring the parents too. We'll get them reading. A lot of these parents can't read, can't write. You try and teach them in this common core math, which I look at, it's essentially having to write a mathematical proof for 2 plus 2 equals 4. Seriously. When I learned math, you know the shortcut I learned? We memorized all 1 to 10s and all 5s and 10s. We memorized our 5s, our 2s, and our 10s times tables. Okay? Then, all you had to do when you wanted to add stuff together or time stuff together, split it up, turn everything into 5s and 10s, put the not 5 and 10 stuff to the side for a second, get that 5s and 10s out of the way, then pull the other stuff back in. I'd explain a little better. Okay, it's like, what's 11 times 32? Well, I don't know. So, let's turn everything into 5s and 10s. Or, times tables we know. We know 1 times 3 is 3. We know 10 times 3 is 30. We know 33. We know 10 times 10 is 100. So we know 330 is going to be 11 times 33. We know 2 times 3 is 6. So we just add 33. So we just add 33 2 times, and you have 396 is 11 times 33. 396. You see, I split up to 5s and 10s where I could. I split everything up into memorized timetables, and I got it done in a very short amount of time. And when you're in college, you gotta have this shit memorized. Common Core just makes math harder. It just makes math. I really think Common Core was more invented to force a show your work, so we don't think you were cheating. If the kid cheats, he'll get caught in college, or at some point down the line when he can't keep a job. And at this point, with calculators everywhere, yeah, we do actually have calculators in our pockets. I was always told you won't always have a calculator. Now I carry it on my pocket and use it for work. Because I'm a gig worker, so I use it for work. So if we want to fix schools, we've got to get teachers to start caring. We got to deal with the bullying issue. We've got to find out where the fuck all these funds are going. And, yeah. But I guess we do need to look at one sad and tragic thing with our school system left in this episode, and that would be school shootings. We've had quite a few of them lately, and some people have said gun control, and actually they've been pushing gun control on these families, but Uvalde proved that we can't trust the police. And Uvalde's in Texas, so Texas is right by the Mexican border. Lots of drugs and illegal stuff comes through Texas from cartels, so I guarantee you that person could have not, well, they did buy it legally, they could just as easily bought it illegally off the black market and still gotten past them. And it also proved when the security mechanisms fail, that's what happens with kids. These cops, they stood around 77 minutes, sanitizer hand from hand sanitizer, laughed. We have them on camera. But it proved a point. We don't need to be relying on badge gone to their head cops to be protecting our students in school. We need armed security at schools, fences around the entire school, and all doors remained locked. That guy ran through a fence, ran in an open door. Had there been a civilian clothed, armed security person, even with just a freaking pistol, given the distance between that truck and that door, and they had been patrolling outside, or even just through the hallway, was the camera guy had seen him and said, run to that door, we've got an armed person heading for that door. That person would have never gotten into that school. Never. And those students probably would not be dead. Well, I should say they probably wouldn't have gotten to school. Those students would still be alive today. I'm not saying that we're going to need an army everywhere to stop mass shootings. It's a cultural problem. It's a lack of self-responsibility. One of them admitted in their manifesto it was about getting guns taken away from people was why they shot people. We also live in a culture where shoplifting is so okay in places like Chicago that Walmart has completely abandoned it. And Portland and Chicago have both been completely abandoned by Walmart, Aldi, these big box stores, because these people do not care. They have no respect for anyone around them or themselves and think thievery is okay and there's no consequence to their actions. And, oh, it's because I'm this, it's because I'm that. And there's no self-responsibility, no ethics. Morals are a spectrum, and stuff like that is why we have mass shootings in the first place. But like I said, we're talking about schools, like with stuff about manufacturing and stuff. It's a future episode. Starting with mass shootings and the state of the country is for future episodes. But the reason I say armed guards is it's something we put in place today. It doesn't require us to fix our parental situation and our school situation, where parents aren't involved, teachers aren't involved with the kids, and the kids are left to raise themselves. That's something that's going to take generations to fix. We don't have generations to wait. Kids are dying today. Armed guards help in the school. Would help keep the school safe. And we are not going to let anyone but the higher-ups in the administration know who they are. We are not going to arm teachers, because I've had abusive teachers, and we've had teachers where I used to live that threw kids in the lockers and beat the shit out of kids and had no ramifications. I do not need guns in those teachers' hands. They're just as likely to shoot the kid as the intruder. So armed guards who are trained, plain clothed. Nobody knows who they are but the top of the administration. They could even be disguised as freaking janitors for all I care. But, well, you don't exactly want to do that because I just gave them the idea, so now everyone will know. But, so, you keep it secret who they are. You have them take some other role in the school. That necessitates them going around the school or whatever. No one knows who they are, so a student can't plan to take them out first. They are roaming the school at all times. Someone's monitoring a camera at all times at every entrance on that screen and from every angle. And if they see someone with a gun, they alert those guards. Those guards go to that area, take care of the threat, and then the police come to pick up the body. It's a simple solution that can be implemented today. But then we couldn't take away people's gun rights, and we couldn't actually deal with we couldn't blame all of our society ills on a tool that crazy people like to use. Anyways, this has been How to Fix the World. I know today really didn't have that many solutions. Solutions are not simple, they are complicated. I'm more talking about what's wrong with the world. But like I said, we're going to recap what happened with this episode. Hopefully future episodes will be better. There is plenty of money in the school system. Teachers need to start caring, and we need armed guards at the school. Yeah, so we're going to audit them, get armed guards in the schools, get parents more involved, and if the parents aren't educated, we're going to get the parents educated, because it's going to help society as a whole, and it's going to fix our school system. Funding is not the issue. It's how the place is being ran. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Have a good one.